Welcome to the Unaffiliated Creatives Podcast, a show where independent artists can learn from other independent artists. My name is kaeveryday, and each week I will be speaking with some of the most creative minds in the indie music space, trying to figure out what they have learned while navigating through the music industry without the support of major record labels. This podcast is brought to you by the good people over at King Neppy Studios and powered by Red Weasel Media. So can you explain to us why Virginia has so many hot producers?
There was something in the water. That phrase is what Teddy used to say. It was just a talent pool, man. It was just like when he came down, not to say that because he came down that nobody was talented. It was just he was the driving force that pulled people from out behind the woods. Like everybody came out the woods, so everybody came to the forefront trying to get an opportunity. So, of course, when you have somebody as big as Ted come down here, that brings everybody out. So, that's something that, and then for him to have the Future Studios, we can open up our band door, our band room door, and we could see it right across it's like a little creek. And we could see. So that brought everybody out, especially us at the school. But then you had, a lot of people don't know, like Rodney Jerkins was down here for a quick stint. You had Bink, you had, Knots is just a whole nother animal in itself. He was just raw, as the name says, like the first beat I ever rapped on was a Knots Raw beat.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. But, the first time let me rephrase that. The first time I was ever in a real studio and recorded in a real studio, like we had recorded at the crib, but that didn't count back then. That didn't count. On them Tascam four tracks, they didn't count.
No bedroom studios.
Yeah. I'm talking about on a real studio. But you just had so much talent out here, and Teddy brought the best of them out, and that's just how it went down. And I think that it created an aura around Virginia and this area in particular. And that's just what it made. It was just like music, people collaborating. The energy it was just a different energy. And it just made you like, this is like, it just gave you hope. Like, this is it. This is where Virginia, it's about to happen. Never mind that we didn't have the infrastructure. We just had a super producer here. We didn't have the rest of the infrastructure like Atlanta did. Atlanta had infrastructure. So, you had LaFace Records. You had So Def Records. You had music attorneys down there. You had infrastructures, real managers, real street team people. No shade to anybody that was here, but they just had better infrastructure in the long run. But the talent has always been here, and it's still here. And I big up the younger generation that's here. Like, I'm not one of those old heads to be like, nah, like I embrace all of that. Like, so y'all young people, y'all can get at me too. Like, for real. But yeah, it's always had talent here.
Yeah.
People.
I mean, I know what you mean about the infrastructure. I mean, from what I remember, it seemed like really the only thing we really had was 103 Jams, and then you had the different DJs. Like, if you got cool with one of the DJs, you would try to get him to play your song. Maybe he would play it in the club or something. But other than that, we really didn't have.
Yeah, well, you got more love in the club, but on radio, Clear Channel won't having that. Like, Clear Channel wasn't having that. And, the DJ's hands was tied, the ones that was on the radio, but it was a Clear Channel thing. Versus Atlanta, when I went to Atlanta, when I was in that, as we were really coming out the gate, I went down to Atlanta and saw that they had more infrastructure. Like, we were based, me and the camp that I was I was in me and my brothers, we had to get an attorney out of Atlanta. We couldn't afford the dudes in New York, so we got an attorney.
Got the second best thing.
Yeah, so we went down to Atlanta. Like all of our real contacts, all of our real connects was in Atlanta. So we had to take that 8-hour drive to go down there to get things popping, because at the end of the day, you couldn't, Ted was a resource, but that man busy, and you got to respect that. And then you had a whole lot of people getting at him, as time progressed, and he wasn't as busy, he definitely showed improved though, for real. So.
All right. So explain to us and explain to the audience your fork in the road moment when it came to your journey in the music business. Well, basically what I'm getting at is normally in most people in their journey in life, especially when they're doing something, there's always a moment, like think about when you watch any movie, there's always that pivotal moment where they either could have went left or they could have went right. And depending on which path they chose, that's kind of set them up and, along for the rest of that journey. So
I think, it's kind of, the reason why I paused, it was a loaded question. I think there was two things. Number one, I put everything into it and just wasn't getting the result that I was hoping for. But the self-accountability there. And as creators, we get so wrapped up into creating, like, I want to make music 24/7, when I really should have pulled back and really examined the business side of it. Like, it is the music business, right? So you have to handle your business. And then I got uninspired. And I started wanting to hear different music. Like I started hearing something else, a different genre. And that's I wanted to do something new. Like I had done R&B and hip hop, and I just felt like it just wasn't going the way that I wanted it. So great opportunities. I've met some amazing people. I've met some of my idols. I've been in those rooms. And what I do understand from being in those rooms is the work ethic. Like that is the difference. Like you could be talented, as you want to be. But when you get in those rooms and you see how those people work, the cats that's in the game, they don't even want to get out the chair and go use the bathroom. It is a constant grind. And when you're allowed to be in those rooms, and then you get away from, and you come out of that room and you get back to your lab, all you want to do is make music 24/7 like them. You want to emulate what you see, and you want to emulate that grind and that work ethic that you see, that you're seeing, right? And then I'm in those rooms, they listening to my music saying, yeah, you got it. So if I'm in those rooms and they telling me you got it, then what's happening, right? So that was becoming frustrating because I didn't have my business in order. So didn't want to make that a long, drawn out scenario. But in short, I started hearing different music. Wasn't getting the result that I wanted. So I just stopped making music. And then just wanted to explore some other things, had some life events happen. So I walked away in 2013, 2012, late 2012, 2013. And I didn't pick things back up till, I want to say 2017 is when I came back and I started to particularly focus on a different genre of music that inspired me. And that's where I went.
So I'm going to go ahead and share this with the audience. I've been sitting here the whole time while you was just, really sharing that with us. And I appreciate you, really taking the time to share that with us. I didn't even know I was going to share this, but I'm just going to go ahead and share it because we basically had somewhat of a similar situation. So mine was a little different. So I actually took a pause with music too, but like I said, for different reasons. My fork in the road was I basically had to make a choice between my now wife and music. And she wasn't the one that was making me make a choice, but I was just being realistic in the situation. So I was presented the opportunity where I either could have moved to Atlanta, because like you were saying at the time, Atlanta was like the spot where if you really was serious and you was really trying to take your music to the next level, back then you either had to go to the big cities like Atlanta, New York, Cali, stuff like that. So I was presented with this opportunity to go down to Atlanta and record in like the bigger studio, stuff like that, right? I knew it was unrealistic to think that I was going to live in Virginia and keep going back and forth to Atlanta like every weekend. I knew I wasn't doing that. So basically, I had to make a choice to either move to Atlanta or stay here. Now, the reason why that was a choice is because my wife, well, she wasn't my wife at the time, she's always been honest with me and told me that she wasn't good with long distance relationships. So I knew that if I would have moved to Atlanta, basically that would have been like basically ending that relationship. So me and her were serious at the time. So I had to make a choice, and I chose the relationship. So, I didn't move to Atlanta. I stayed here. We did end up getting married and having kids and stuff. So I guess I made the right decision. But when I did that, the music got put on hold. But now I'm back. Thanks to this man, he brought me back in the game.
I think my wife didn't ask me to walk away from it, but funny enough, she asked me to walk back to it because she knew that was a part of me. Like, I just walked in the studio one day and was like, done. Like, this ain't it. I love y'all, but I gotta walk away right now, And I'm thankful that I had true brothers that understood that the way I'm wired, that's just how I am. When I need to take a break, I need to take a break. And people that know me know when I take a break, I need to take a break all the way. Like I need that. I don't need a mental health day. I might need a couple of mental health years to get to process out. Because sometimes you just gotta step away so that you can process. Because once again, it's the music business, right? So when you understand the business, right, and if you don't have your business in order, that's the part where you really got to go back and you got to get back to square one and understand what the grind is. I was in a situation, I was with my brothers, so there was no paperwork, right? So all of this time, over a decade, no paperwork. It was just off the strength of love. So, and I'm thankful that we had that love and bond, that we didn't need paperwork. But at the end of the day, now I look hindsight 2020, as I get my business in order, I got to have paperwork, even if I got to put paperwork on myself so that I can protect myself. Because the way the game is right now, people really got to really understand how to move out here. Because everybody trying to get at your credits, everybody trying to, get a piece of what you created. And I'm like Kobe. And like how Drake said it, like, you wasn't with me.
You wasn't with me shooting in the gym.
Like, how can we can't keep stepping on the dope like that? It don't make sense, right? Sooner or later, when it come back, the money got to come back the same way it went out. So, and if you giving your music to your man, who's going to give it to his man, who's going to give it to his man, that's going to give it to the artist manager, and then you got to hear the artist. See, I'm in a new phase of how I do things. I'm not interested in being interviewed. Like, as far as from a man to the next man to the next man, I don't want to be interviewed like that. It's either me develop a relationship with the artist direct, or I want nothing. I don't want no parts of it. Like, and the way this works now, like, it used to, back in the day, that could be a daunting thing because you choose to be like, well, I want to work with the artist direct. managers and road managers and engineers, but yeah, good luck, right? So, but now we have social media, the tool, the technology allows us to get at them direct. Might not always work, but realize that you have to build an audience, and I think that's key, because I think me and you both look at people that's got credits in the game. They only got they have a small audience, so you kind of we call it, you got to go see the wizard, right? Every time,
what is the man behind the curtain?
Yeah, you got to go put a batch together, and then you got to go see the wizard. The wizard could be your man next to the man, next to the man, next to the man, and then the money got to get stepped on the same way it went out. So you better off hunkering down, building your audience, getting creative. There's a lot of people younger than me that's figured it out, and I'm not one of those people that be like, oh, I ain't with what them young people doing. Nah, I'm gonna go and, hey, what are they doing? That's working. That works, right? So, and then some things, I don't make comedy of my art. I don't knock anybody who do what they do, but I've seen people licking toilets to get views and build audiences. I mean, that might be,
the young lady was able to go viral by licking the toilet. So look, she was willing to do whatever she had to do to go viral, P.
Hey, but I tell you, I'd rather lick a toilet than sign a 360.
The plan was successful.
I'd rather lick a toilet. And then you think about it now, right? An artist gets average contract nowadays, they barely get 15, 20 grand. Barely get 15 to 20 grand. And then you thinking as producer, if you're not part of their camp, and you think you're gonna come in and get placements and snatching 2,000 or 3,000 out of that 20 grand, come on, man, you gotta be realistic, bruh. You gotta be realistic, and unless that artist has a platform, and if they just starting out, they don't really have it to give, and you got to be understanding of that. And you just got to find an artist that you can connect with and just hunker down with them. I'm still looking for that artist to hunker down with, and that young artist that I can shape and mold. And then a lot of people, in this game now, the young people, they got their own, they make their own music, they make their own beats. Kudos to them. I get it. But I don't knock the youth, but don't knock experience. If and then a lot of cats will look, and I tell you all the time, you got way more followers than me. You should be getting paid more as a producer than me. And I know I'm like an old head. I have to get better at the social media.
Playing the social media game.
Well, that's what this is all about, right? So this is the way to keep the conversation going.